Right, Turkish police investigators have begun searching Saudi Arabia's Istanbul consulate 2 weeks after the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. 5 mobile crime scene vehicles were seen arriving at the Saudi consulate, and dozens of police investigators entered the building. Security in the area was tightened. A Turkish diplomatic source had earlier said that a joint Turkish-Saudi team would conduct a search of the consulate, the last place that Khashoggi was seen before he vanished on the 2nd of October. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo departed on a hastily arranged trip to Saudi Arabia for talks with King Salman Al Saud. The U.S. President Donald Trump announced in a Monday morning tweet that he was dispatching Pompeo to discuss the fate of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Earlier, Trump suggested that rogue killers may be responsible for the journalist's disappearance. Saudi King Salman has also ordered an internal probe into the case. The European Union's foreign policy chief Federica Mogherini has said that all the 28 EU member states had been unanimous in their expectation of transparency in the investigation on the disappearance of prominent Saudi journalist. The case has provoked an international outcry, with US President Donald Trump threatening severe punishment if it turns out Khashoggi was killed in the consulate, and European allies calling for a credible investigation and accountability for those responsible. SoftBank Group Corporation saw its shares drop on Monday as fallout from the disappearance of a Saudi journalist spread to the Japanese conglomerate, whose nearly $100 billion vision fund is almost half financed by Saudi Arabia. Now, SoftBank stock was almost 8% down, along with the increase in the crude oil prices. The concerns over the disappearance of the Saudi journalist has seen a growing number of attendees pull out of the Davos in the Desert Investment Conference, which has become the biggest show for investors to promote Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's reform vision. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren has released a DNA test that shows that what she calls strong evidence that she has Native American heritage, a smackdown of President Donald Trump's ridicule of her as a fake Pocahontas. Warren, a Massachusetts Democrat, said last month she would take a hard look at running the Democratic nomination to challenge Republican Trump in 2020. Now, she and Trump clashed frequently through the 2016 presidential campaign, and Trump has cast aspersions on her claim to Native American ancestry. British Prime Minister Theresa May has urged the European Union not to allow a standoff over the so-called Irish backstop to derail the Brexit talks, saying she believed a deal was achievable. Facing pressure from Brexit supporters and the opposition Labour Party in Parliament, May said that she would try to ensure that a backstop would not come into place. May still faces a struggle to ease the concerns of not only the EU but of her Conservative Party and her partners in Parliament. Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party, that is. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said clinching a Brexit deal is looking more difficult, even if 90% of an agreement on Britain's departure from the EU is completed. Merkel added that with the exit agreement, they were actually very hopeful that Brexit could perhaps succeed, but at the moment, it actually looks a bit more difficult. U.S. President Donald Trump has reiterated that he made no deal with Turkey to lift U.S. sanctions in exchange for the release of an American pastor who had been detained there and who returned to the United States over the weekend. Israeli soldiers have shot dead a Palestinian who tried to stab one of them in the occupied West Bank. The incident occurred at a bus stop along a main highway near the large Jewish settlement of Ariel. There were no casualties among the Israeli forces. There was no immediate comment from the Palestinian authorities either. Israel's Shin Bet Internal Security Service says that the assailant, whom it did not name, was a resident of the West Bank village of Bidya and had no record of anti-Israeli activity. As Canadians prepare for the legalization of recreational cannabis this week, 24 students are becoming the first in the country to get formal credentials in growing pot. Canada will become the first industrialized nation to legalize the recreational use of cannabis on Wednesday, fulfilling a campaign promise by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberals, who had argued the move would keep pot out of the hands of underage users and reduce related crime. Canada's burgeoning marijuana industry has caught the attention of major retailers like Walmart and other global companies. French President Emmanuel Macron has said he was moved and expressed solidarity with victims of flash floods that struck southern France as some of his ministers visited the disaster zone. French Prime Minister visited the southern French city of Villers-Hench to survey the damage caused by the disaster and meet with local authorities. Earlier, the Interior Ministry initially put the number of deaths at 13 before revising the toll downwards. An official blamed double counting for the error. At least 13 people have been killed in southwestern France by some of the worst flash floods in a century now. Aerial shots and television pictures show raging muddy rivers swollen by torrential rains that had uprooted, knocked over concrete power pylons and swept away cars in the southern region. Emergency services say that 13 people have been killed and one person is still missing. Thousands are being evacuated from the area, where officials say up to 7 months' worth of rain had fallen overnight. Syria's foreign minister says that Iran forces stand ready to fight jihadists around the northwestern region of Idlib if a Russian-Turkish deal is not implemented there the same day, in keeping with a critical deadline. The deal for Idlib sets up a buffer zone running 15 to 20 kilometers deep into the rebel territory that must be evacuated of all the heavy weapons and all jihadists. Syrian foreign minister says it was up to Russia now to judge whether the agreement, which staved off a government offensive on Idlib, was being fulfilled. Israel, Syria and the United Nations have opened the Quneitra crossing in the Golan Heights to allow a UN observer force to resume its peacekeeping mission that was disrupted by the Syrian civil war. The UN Disengagement Observer Force has been monitoring operations in a demilitarized zone established in 1974 between the Israeli-occupied Golan and the Syrian sector. But the peacekeeping mission was disrupted by Syria's civil war. Israel captured the Golan Heights in 1967 Middle East war and fought Syria again on the strategic plateau in a 1973 conflict. China has urged the United States to stop official exchanges with Taiwan. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson says that the U.S. is twisting facts over the cross-strait relations while responding to the U.S. accusation that China threatened the regional peace by persuading 3 Latin American countries to sever diplomatic ties with Taiwan. China has launched 2 more Beidou navigation satellites, marking a significant progress in the country's global navigation network. After more than 3 hours of flight, the satellite successfully entered the scheduled orbit. It will be tested and connected to the 14 Beidou number 3 navigation satellites launched before. So far, China has launched a total of 40 Beidou satellites and 11 more will be launched in the next 2 years in an effort to complete the global navigation network. German police caught a suspected hostage taker at the main train station in the western city of Cologne and freed the injured hostage. According to police, the attacker has been seriously injured during the operation. The hostage-takers' motives remain unclear. Germany is on high alert for terror attacks almost 2 years after a Tunisian man rammed a hijacked truck into a Christmas market in central Berlin, killing 11 people as well as the driver. Junior Minister for External Affairs of India, M.J. Akbar, has filed a defamation suit against one of at least 10 women who have accused him of sexual harassment, calling her allegations false and malicious. The case has been filed in Delhi's Patiala court. The lawsuit names journalist Priya Ramani as the sole accused and says that she intentionally put forward malicious, fabricated and salacious allegations to harm his reputation. The lawsuit comes amid widespread calls on social media for Akbar's resignation from his post as the junior foreign minister. Saudi Arabia, the world's biggest oil exporter, has said it is committed to meeting India's rising oil demand as the kingdom expects its oil production to rise next month from the current 10.7 million barrels per day. India, the world's third biggest oil importer, is grappling with a combination of rising oil prices and falling local currency. Retail prices for petrol and diesel fuel in India are at a record high, and the government has cut its excise tax on fuel to ease some of the pain for consumers. India and China have launched a program to train Afghan diplomats in New Delhi. China's ambassador to India says it would likely be followed by joint programs in other fields to help the war torn Afghanistan. Such cooperation is the first by the two Asian giants, which have long been locked in a tussle for influence in a region stretching from Nepal to Sri Lanka and the island chain of the Maldives. Within Afghanistan, India and China have been on opposite sides, with China relying on its old ally Pakistan. At least 3 people were killed and 15 others injured after the roof of an under-construction building collapsed in the Shahjahanpur district of Uttar Pradesh in India. The incident reportedly occurred when the 2-story under-construction building collapsed, killing 3 people and trapping several other workers. Rescue officials rushed to the spot and the injured were taken to hospital for treatment. Rescue operations continue to extricate the people trapped under the rubble. The contractor has been arrested. An investigation into the matter is underway. Thousands of women devotees in Kerala's Thiruvananthapuram city took to the streets to protest against the top court order allowing women aged between 10 and 50 to enter the Sabrimala temple, which annually attracts millions of pilgrims. The Kerala government is bracing for a face-off between the protesters and the entry seekers in the Sabrimala temple when it reopens on the 17th of October. The protests across the province and near the temple region are expected to intensify. That has pushed the authorities to tighten up the security in parts of the state. More people were tested positive for swine flu at just one civil hospital in Gujarat's Ahmedabad city as the scare of the viral fever grips the city. Gujarat has been seeing an alarming rise in the number of patients who are affected by the virus and being admitted to hospitals. Reports suggest that over 400 patients of swine flu were recorded in the state in September. Halfway through October, the rate of the spread is only rising. The Ahmedabad Civil Hospital received a total of 20 patients, of whom 17 were tested positive for the flu virus. Devotees and revelers throng pandals across Kolkata to witness celebrations of Durga Puja. Every year, thousands of pandals are made in Kolkata with different themes, which are the main attraction of the festival. Organizers come up with innovative themes and try to better their previous attempts. Following the trend, a marquee replica of London's Big Ben clock tower attracted thousands of people from across the city. A lot of visitors were spellbound with the detailed work of the marquee and the gold-adorned Durga idol.